Before you make the irreversible decision to claim your benefits early, do you know the one thing that could change absolutely everything about that choice? Good morning, everyone. I'm Daniel Robert Whitmore, and welcome back to Senior Security with Daniel. Today we're tackling something that catches so many of you off guard, and I mean really off guard. We're talking about one of the most misunderstood parts of Social Security, how spousal benefits work when one person claims early. And getting this wrong? It could easily cost you tens of thousands of dollars over your retirement years. I've seen it happen more times than I can count. Now, I want to start with an actual question I received from the listener. His name is Michael, and his situation is probably very similar to what you're facing. Let me read you what he wrote to me. Michael says, "Daniel, my wife and I are in our early 60s. I've been working my whole life and building up a good Social Security benefit. My wife raised our 2 children and never worked enough to qualify for a substantial benefit of her own. I'm thinking about claiming my benefit at 62 because I want to reduce pressure on my retirement savings. My full benefit at 67 would be around $3,800 a month. If I claim at 62, it drops to about $2,600. Here's my question. If I claim early at 62, and my wife waits until her full retirement age of 67 to claim a spousal benefit, will she still get half of my full benefit, the $3,800? Or is she stuck getting half of what I actually claimed, the $2,600? I'm worried I'm going to accidentally reduce what she gets, and I want to make sure we're making the right call here." Michael, first, thank you for that question. And second, I've got some really good news for you and your wife. But before I give you that news, I need to back up and make sure everyone listening understands how this system actually works, because the rules around spousal benefits are genuinely counterintuitive. Let me start with the very basics. When you reach that magic age where you become eligible for Social Security, and for most of you that's 62, you have choices to make. And those choices have consequences that ripple through your retirement for decades. The first choice is straightforward. You can claim your own retirement benefit. That benefit is based entirely on your personal earnings history. The Social Security Administration looks at your 35 highest earning years, does some calculations, and comes up with what they call your primary insurance amount, or PIA. That's the amount you're entitled to at your full retirement age, which for most people reading this is somewhere between 66 and 67. If you're born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is likely 67. But here's the second choice that not everyone realizes is available to them. If you're married, you might be eligible for a spousal benefit. Now, a spousal benefit is completely different. It's not based on your earnings record. It's based on your spouse's earnings record. This is exactly what applies to Michael's wife and to countless others listening. A spousal benefit exists for a reason. It recognizes that in many families, one person was the primary earner while the other was raising children, managing the household, or doing other invaluable work that didn't show up on a W-2. Social Security's spousal benefit is there to say, even though you didn't build up a big earnings record, we're going to make sure you get some retirement security based on the fact that you were married to someone who did. Now, how much is a spousal benefit? Here's the key number: up to 50% of your spouse's primary insurance amount. Not 50% of what your spouse actually claims, not 50% of what your spouse receives. 50% of what your spouse would receive at their full retirement age. That is the crucial distinction. Let me give you a concrete example, and then I'll circle back to Michael's situation. Imagine a worker whose full retirement age is 67, and at that age they would receive $2,000 a month. That's their primary insurance amount. Now imagine their spouse, also age 67, who had little or no earnings history. That spouse is entitled to up to half of that $2,000. $1,000 a month. That's the maximum spousal benefit. Now here's where it gets interesting. What if the worker decides not to claim at 67? What if they wait until 70, hoping to boost their benefit through something called delayed retirement credits. Those credits are real. For every month the worker waits past their full retirement age, their benefit grows by about 0.8% per month. By age 70, that $2,000 benefit has grown to $2,440. Beautiful. But here's the thing. The spouse's spousal benefit is still capped at $1,000 per month. The spouse's benefit does not earn delayed retirement credits. It stays at 50% of what the worker could have gotten at full retirement age, not 50% of what the worker actually gets later. This is not intuitive, but it's the rule. Now, the worker must actually be collecting their benefit in order for the spouse to collect a spousal benefit. You can't just have the worker sit on the sidelines and let the spouse grab a spousal benefit while the worker waits. That used to be possible under something called file and suspend, but that went away years ago. So the starting line is, the worker has to be on the books, claiming their benefit, before the spouse can claim a spousal benefit. But here, and this is the critical piece from Michael, the age at which the worker claims does not affect the maximum spousal benefit the spouse can receive if the spouse waits until full retirement age. This is where so many people get tangled up. In Michael's case, his primary insurance amount, his full retirement age benefit, is $3,800. Half of that is $1,900. If his wife waits until her full retirement age of 67 to claim a spousal benefit, she gets that $1,900. That's it. That's the number. Now Michael is thinking about claiming at 62. If he does, his own benefit drops to $2,600 per month. That's a permanent reduction. The Social Security Administration will never give him back those dollars. But, and this is the beautiful part, his wife's potential spousal benefit is not affected by that choice. She still gets $1,900 because her benefit is based on his primary insurance amount, not on what he actually claimed. The math works like this. Michael's full retirement age benefit, $3,800. Half of that, $1,900. That's what his wife receives if she waits until 67. Whether Michael claimed at 62 or waited until 75, hypothetically, doesn't change her $3,800 in the calculation. It's frozen at his full retirement age benefit. Now, I want to be very clear about something else. If Michael's wife had claimed a spousal benefit early, say at 62, then yes, her benefit would be reduced. There's a reduction formula for early claiming as a spouse, and it's not insignificant. For every month before her full retirement age, her spousal benefit is reduced. The reduction is roughly 0.8% per month for the first 3 years of early claiming, and then half of that rate for any months beyond that. So if she's claiming 5 years early, from 67 down to 62, she's looking at a meaningful reduction. But she's not claiming early. She's willing to wait. So that reduction doesn't apply to her. Here's another nuance I want to cover, and it matters in some situations. What someone collects as a spousal benefit is technically made up of two pieces, their own retirement benefit plus any excess spousal benefit. Let me illustrate this. Suppose Michael's wife actually had worked a little bit, and she had built up her own retirement benefit of, say, $600 per month at her full retirement age. Her spouse's benefit, the full amount she's entitled to based on Michael's record, is still capped at $1,900 because that's half of Michael's $3,800. So technically, she collects her own $600 and then an additional excess spousal benefit of $1,300 for a total of $1,900. Why does that matter? Well, in certain situations where the worker is waiting to claim and the spouse wants to start getting income earlier, that breakdown can matter. If the spouse has their own modest benefit, they can claim that at full retirement age without waiting for the worker to claim. They'll only get their own $600 while they're waiting. Then later, once the worker starts claiming, the spouse can add on the excess spousal benefit of $1,300 to reach the full $1,900. But in Michael's case, his wife has no meaningful earnings history, so her own benefit is zero. The entire $1,900 is the spousal benefit, pure and simple, and she can't touch it until Michael is collecting. I also want to talk about what happens if someone claims as a spouse early. The reductions are substantial. If Michael's wife claimed at 62 instead of waiting until 67, she'd be claiming 5 years early. Using the reduction schedule, her benefit would drop to about 83% of the $1,900, or roughly $1,570. Over her lifetime, and we're talking about potentially 25, 30, or more years in retirement, that 5-year delay to full retirement age would recover tens of thousands of dollars. But again, in Michael's situation, his wife is willing to wait, so she avoids that reduction entirely. Let me also touch on the bigger picture here, because Michael's question isn't really just a math problem. Michael is facing a genuine dilemma. He's looking at his retirement savings and he's thinking, should I claim early and reduce the draw on my portfolio? Or should I wait and let my Social Security benefit grow? That's a really important question, and it doesn't have a one-size-fits-all answer. Everyone's situation is different. Some people are in good health with strong family longevity, and waiting longer to claim genuinely makes sense. Some people have health concerns, and waiting might not be the right move. Some people have plenty of savings and can afford to wait. Some people have depleted savings and feel pressure to claim early. There's no shame in any of these situations. What I will say is this: understanding the rules, the actual mechanics of how Social Security works, is a prerequisite to making a good decision. And too many people don't understand the rules. They think their early claim is going to penalize their spouse, so they hold off on claiming, when in fact their spouse's benefit is protected if the spouse waits until full retirement age. Or the reverse, they claim without understanding what they're locking in, and then years later they realize they made a suboptimal choice. Michael, to directly answer your question, yes, your wife will still get half of your full retirement age benefit if she waits until 67. That's $1,900. Your choice to claim at 62 will reduce your own benefit permanently, but it will not reduce hers. She's protected by the rule that says spousal benefits are based on your primary insurance amount, your full retirement age benefit, regardless of when you actually claim. That said, I want to encourage both of you to sit down and think through the whole picture. Look at your savings, look at your health, look at your life expectancy. Think about what happens to your wife if you pass away before her. Social Security survivor benefits are actually even more generous than spousal benefits, and they're also worth understanding. Think about your taxes. Think about your investment withdrawals. Think about what gives you peace of mind. Because maximizing the number of dollars you get from Social Security isn't the same as maximizing your retirement security. Your retirement security depends on your whole financial picture: investments, savings, taxes, longevity, safety. Social Security is one critical piece. Getting it right is worth tens of thousands of dollars. So thank you, Michael, for that question. And if you're watching this and you're in a similar situation, you're in your 50s or early 60s, you're thinking about when to claim, and you've got a spouse who didn't build up their own benefit, I want to encourage you to pause before you claim. Understand the rules, run the numbers, maybe talk to a financial advisor who specializes in Social Security strategy, because this is one of the most important financial decisions you'll make in retirement. I'm Daniel Robert Whitmore. If you found this helpful, I'd love for you to like and subscribe to Senior Security with Daniel so you don't miss future episodes. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please consider leaving a 5-star review. And if you have your own Social Security question that you'd like me to address on a future episode, you can reach out to me on the website. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.